Okay, now that you are acquainted with Blackboard and you're acquainted with the way this class is structured with the introductory learning module, we're going to move on to section number 1. Section number 1 covers learning units 1, 2, and 3. And while on the surface they may not seem to be related learning units, there is a definite connection between these 3 learning units. The first learning unit you're going to look at is the westward expansion. You're going to look at what happens as settlers move more aggressively into the west. You're going to look at various conflicts between the settlers and the Native Americans. You're going to learn about the changing environmental practices. You're going to look at and understand changing agricultural practices, changing mining practices, and you're going to see what all of this does to what at one time was a Wild West. And so in this period, we're really looking at a taming of the Wild West. So you also will be reading some primary sources for witnesses in that period, and hopefully have a better understanding of the effects that the expansion had on not only the culture of the Native Americans, but on the country as a whole as it got broader and spread out. Learning Unit 2 and 3 switches the focus to the East Coast. Looks at the Gilded Age, and all of this is going on at the same time as the westward expansion. So don't think of these as chronological. Everything in chapter 17 happens first, then 18. These are going on at the same time. And the Gilded Age, the term was coined by Mark Twain, and it really denotes where something is shiny and pretty on the outside, but like a gilded frame that only has a little bit of gold on the outside, underneath is a plain material. That is what Gilded Age really is trying to express. It may look good on the outside, but if you dig deep, you're going to find corruption, you're going to find poverty, horrible living conditions, horrible working conditions, and this is what caused the growth of these big businesses and great wealth in very few hands. And Learning Unit 3 is definitely related to what's going on during the Gilded Age, because all of these big businesses require labor, and these factory labors are attracting people to the cities. And what's going on in the cities at this time is directly related to both what we looked at in Learning Unit 2 with the Gilded Age and the growth of big businesses, but also with westward expansion. As the cities get larger and crowdeder, don't know if that's a real word, but as they are getting so impacted that some people are moving further west for a chance of land. And so all 3 of these learning units are interrelated, going on at the same time. And so there's a lot of information that's happening in the late 1800s into the early 1900s. And the last chapter you'll see in section number 1 is the assessment module. And the assessment module is assessing whether or not you understood those first 3 learning units.